What kind of life is worth living? The most common perspective on life often resembles a race more than an experience. People establish clear stages of what life should be and how it should unfold: study, work, marry, work, have children, work, retire, and perhaps only then truly live. In part, this reflects the overemphasis on work and productivity. However, asking about the meaning of life has been a frequent question since humans became humans. In today's video, we're going back 2,300 years in time and straight to ancient Athens, Greece. The most popular place of that era was probably the Agora of Athens, a very important public space full of life, where merchants shared the space with performances and heated discussions about politics, life, and philosophy. But not all that remains of the Agora are its ruins. Many of the ideas tested at that time have survived all these years. In a special area of the Agora called the Painted Stoa, that's where Zeno of Citium began to present his ideas that later led to Stoicism. Yes, Stoicism comes from Stoa. You weren't entirely unlucky. In one of the anecdotes about his life, they say he was a quite wealthy and prosperous merchant until he took a boat trip across the Mediterranean Sea. During this journey, he faced a strong storm and lost all his material possessions, leaving only his own life. Confronted with a situation that would make many give up on everything and everyone, Zeno found no other path but to seek refuge in rationality to understand how to react to the unpredictability of life. That's when Stoicism began to take shape as a philosophy that seeks the use of reason to deal with emotions, avoid vices, and cultivate virtues. For this, it would be necessary to approach life with a certain apathy. This means avoiding the excesses of passion, not getting too excited about pleasures, and not being overly affected by misfortunes. But forget, for a moment, the common sense of the words apathy and passion. Apathy comes from the Greek a-for negation and pathos for passion. Thus, apathy would be the absence of passions, but in a very specific sense of passion as a disturbed state of the soul, a controlling and violent emotion. To achieve tranquility, apathy, we need to identify and separate the things we can control from those we can't. And this is not an easy task. It requires a special combination of ideas. Therefore, Stoic philosophy consists of three components: ethics, logic, and physics. But not in the modern sense of these words. Don't forget we're in ancient Greece. While ethics is the historical philosophy component that most attracts people's attention, Stoicism is a complex framework of ideas. To help us understand this, we often turn to Diogenes Laertius, an important biographer of ancient Greek philosophy. In one of his works, he writes that the Stoics saw philosophy as a living creature, where logic is the bones, ethics is the flesh, and physics is the soul. The Stoics believed in a perfectly ordered and harmonious universe, where everything has a reason for being and is predetermined. The laws of this universe are distributed in all of us consistently and eternally. In this sense, they had a deterministic view of the world. The universe would be structured like a vast web of causes and effects, so that the present state is the result of a chain of past causes, and this sequence of causes is inescapable. The universe follows its course, independent of us. But at the same time, this might sound frightening. The Stoics saw it as a great relief. It was a way to worry less about what we can't control. There's a famous quote attributed to Seneca about this: "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." If the events of the universe are not under your control, then all that is left for you is to be rational enough to deal with your own reactions and emotions in the face of circumstances. In the course of life, you can't control 99% of the things that will happen to you, but you can control how you react to them. How can we become happy? Happiness is the ultimate good. Stoic ethics sees it as the final goal of human fulfillment. And that's why they developed an ethics focused on virtue, with four main pillars: wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Wisdom is about understanding the events of the world in a logical and calm manner. Justice is about acting impartially when assessing people and situations. Courage is knowing what should be feared and what should be endured. Moderation is about balancing desires, seeking simplicity, and avoiding vices. All of these are complementary to each other and constitute what we call virtuousness. Acting virtuously is only possible if we understand the nature of the cosmos rationally. Especially, we must know that our nature, as humans, differs from the nature of other beings because we have a more well-developed rationality than a stone. Therefore, to act according to the laws of nature would be to act rationally. Otherwise, we would be disrespecting the structure of the universe, going against the inevitable flow of events. This is a violation of physical and logical laws. Life, beauty, strength, reputation, and wealth, as well as their opposites, ugliness, weakness, and poverty, are indifferent. They don't possess, in themselves, any positive or negative value. We make them good or bad. Therefore, we should be apathetic about the events imposed on us. But apathy isn't about rejecting emotions, but about controlling them. It's not about being passive in the world, but about knowing how far you can act. The world is opaque, and the laws of nature are invincible. But this doesn't absolve us of the responsibility for our actions. We can't control diseases, but we can make healthy choices and avoid them. But even then, if one day we do get sick, what remains is to accept it with courage and wisdom. We have no control over the actions of others, whether they insult us or love us. But we can avoid anger and cultivate justice and moderation. Everything that happens to us is a loan from the universe, including life. Being wise is recognizing this and, with courage, knowing that we can have glory without being glorious. Just as we can lose without being losers. Over the years, Stoicism spread beyond ancient Greece. It flourished mainly in Rome, with Seneca, Epictetus, and Emperor Marcus Aurelius. With all we know about Epictetus, as his disciples' accounts, because he left nothing written, only Seneca and Marcus Aurelius left authored works. In the case of Marcus Aurelius, his book Meditations seems to have been written as a sort of diary on how to deal with and improve his attitudes. Almost like guidance to himself, to carry on with his life as a Roman emperor. Each of them had a particularly challenging life. Seneca was sentenced to take his own life, Epictetus was a slave for a long time, and Marcus Aurelius was the Roman emperor for almost 20 years. Therefore, it's natural to expect that they reflected on death and life, freedom and slavery, control and excess. Seneca wrote many letters during his life, and some of them were meant to console his friends. However, he did so in a peculiar way. While a traditional Stoic wouldn't tell their friends to wait for better days, Seneca said the opposite. He advised that they should expect the worst and be prepared for it. Imagine asking for someone's help, and they say, "There's no use lamenting and crying over events of an endlessly uncontrollable universe. You should have considered situations of great misfortune and found joy in scarcity, rather than cultivating vices and fleeting pleasures and becoming enslaved by your ambitions. Now, I advise you to be more rational, learn about virtues, and have the courage and wisdom to accept the inevitability of life's events with as much apathy as possible." It might sound harsh, perhaps not at all motivational, but for Stoics, the sooner a person understands what it means to act according to nature, the better. And this is where the idea comes from that the greatest sufferings and disturbances are not the facts of the world themselves, but the judgments we make about them. And what greater misfortune is there than death? Death was a central element in Stoic philosophy, seen as the most intimate mark of life. It's always present, making life fragile, and at the same time, it makes life worth living. Seneca goes even further, saying that life itself is a preparation for death. Wisdom would be recognizing that life is something borrowed and that we must return it without sorrow when it's claimed. And that's what he did when he received the death sentence. He criticized how people act inconsistently about their own mortality. We desire to enjoy life, but we delay that moment as if we were immortal and had all the time in the world. We only realize our fragility when we lose something, and only then do we act like mortals. Life isn't short, but we make it short when we dedicate ourselves to things beyond our control. Stoicism emerged over 2,000 years ago in a completely different place from what it is today. As a society vastly different from ours in terms of economics, politics, technology, and culture. We're separated by time, space, and history. Yet, we're united by the same doubts. And to you, what is life? How should it be? Let's discuss in the comments here. Thank you very much, and until next time.